Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Fiasco, Scott Reed coming to you. We'll have Jive jump up here when he's available a little bit later. And we're bringing to you an exciting new node project, which is about to launch in February, Emerald Nodes. We have both of the co-founders of Emerald Nodes on one line, on Baxter's line. Fellas, can you say hello to the people?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
I'm Baxter, and this is Shane here. Sorry about the lack of two accounts. You should be able to hear the difference in us, though.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, can you take just a few minutes here? It doesn't have to be super in depth. And to anyone who's not familiar with your project in our audience, can you explain to them the basics of what it is and just kind of give you know, a 30-second, minute long review of what you've got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off by saying my name is Baxter, and I oversee the majority of the smart contract front and back end development for the project. So those of you who are familiar with Strongblock, which is the largest nodes as a service project that is available now. We have taken a lot from Strongblock in terms of ideas, though we are not forking the contracts. All of our development is created specifically for our project. And essentially, the uniqueness of Emerald Nodes is its existence on the Avalanche network, which is essentially the idea of that is to undercut the majority of the fees that exist in terms of Ethereum, as well as we have incorporated a Treasury system which will allow users in the future to sell their nodes back to the protocol and burn the nodes, which essentially creates a bit more incentive in terms of sustainability, having the ability that the nodes that are created are not going to be around forever. If the investors, decide to back out of the project based on their own kind of ideas about market movements and things like that. And that kind of gives the investors and the user base just a little bit more freedom in that realm.
Absolutely. So, one of the questions that people want to know first, and this is a question that we get a lot about these new nodes as a service or DeFi as a service platforms. Are you all actually creating nodes, usable functional nodes with endpoints, or is it a node in the DOS sense of the word?
Yeah, great question. So we are going to be having real nodes, and shortly after the launch, likely by the end of February, all users who do set up nodes will have access to those RPC endpoints and will be able to look into exactly what their nodes are doing when they set them up, and they'll get all the links to that information.
Sure, absolutely. So before we go any deeper into questions about mechanics and technical stuff, can you explain just a little bit about your background and both of your background? Give us a brief rundown on who you guys are and how you got started in this space.
hey, my name is Shane Stouffer. I'm currently pursuing a degree in computer science and finance, but recently, in the past year, I've been really involved in the DeFi space, following a project as Strongblock, as you all know. And since then, I've kind of put my degree on pause so I can put all of my time and effort into Emerald Nodes.
And my name is Baxter, and like I said before, I oversee the development for the project. I've got a basic background in Solidity, Python, and JavaScript. So we have hired some out-of-house development, and those guys are a team called MetaBridge, and there's quite a bit more info about them on our website, but I do oversee that team. And I, just like Shane, have had quite a bit of involvement in the DeFi space, specifically in the past 9 months. And actually, how Shane and I connected is we both were doing kind of freelance consultants for different cryptocurrency projects, and we kind of caught the tail end of the altcoin hype back when Bitcoin was around the 60K level in October and November. And we connected around a couple mutual projects, and we have quite a bit of experience building up communities of projects. And we essentially, what we were trying to do at that point in time was help these newer projects, instead of coming to them and offering to promote them within a community that we had created, we were offering them the ability to build up kind of their own community and have their own engagement specific to their project, instead of just doing Twitter promotions or different kind of interviews and whatnot to promote their project within a community that we had created. So we connected around that on a couple mutual projects, and then about maybe 5 to 6 months ago, started talking about potentially getting started on a node project, as we had seen kind of the interest in Strongblock pickup, and just how we kind of saw a lot of potential in the utilization in terms of nodes as a service, as opposed to the typical altcoin project that a lot of these protocols had been following over the past year.
Excellent. So I've been doing a dive onto your project, and I've reviewed pretty much all the docs that you've put out. One of the things that I noticed is that you guys are doing a lot with this. You have both new mechanisms that I've never seen before, like a buyback and burn for a
Sure.
node service. And then you also have bonding. You also have liquidity pools that collect rewards off the nodes. You have nodes, but you have multiple tiers of nodes. I guess my question would be, who put the tokenomics together for you, and how do you run the math long term to make sure that this economy is viable and sustainable?
Yeah, great question. So the two of us kind of came together, and I definitely wouldn't say that the tokenomics and the calculations in terms of sustainability were either of our brainchild. I think it was kind of the two of us together. And I think essentially the past, I would say, I suppose the initial 3 months of development in terms of ideas of the project were just really exactly that, ironing out the specifics of what we could do to create a sustainable project long term. A lot of the qualms that people have had with projects like Strongblock and Thor and some of these other larger node projects that are older, and also ones that have been coming out recently, is people like to use the word Ponzi scheme for it. And although there's a certain relatable aspect there, what we're trying to do is move away from that. And I know that we touched on it briefly in the messages that we shared back and forth with the group, but just to share the idea with everyone here, essentially what the idea of the node tiers is that we have a lower cost of the nodes later on as more nodes are created, but the rewards of the node actually decay at a slightly faster rate than the cost does. So that the APY, to use the word for the yield for it, is actually going down at a slight degree, and that means that as more nodes are created, the cost goes down, the rewards go down a little bit more, and the money going into the rewards pool actually goes up based on the node tier that is being minted at that point in time.
Excellent. And so, go ahead.
I was just putting my water down, sorry.
Oh, no, don't be. All right. So I would assume that your nodes function the same as a Strongblock node when it comes to NFTs, correct? You must build a node to then attach an NFT and start gaining rewards.
Precisely, yep.
Yeah, we actually copied all of the NFT structure from Strongblock because they have proven to be extremely successful with their NFT launch and the functionality.
Absolutely. So one thing that I noticed as I was going through the tokenomics is at a certain point, a tier 5 node will begin producing 0.025 emerald a day, and an NFT, a bronze NFT, or whatever you change the name to when you get around to changing them, will produce around the same level of reward every day. And so my question was, how do you balance those tokenomics? Like, because both of the contributions will go into different pools, correct? One will go into the rewards pool, and one will go into the treasury, right?
You mean the money that's coming in from the NFTs being minted?
Yeah, exactly. So when someone mints an NFT, that money is going to go into the treasury, correct?
I believe that money is going to be going into the rewards pool as of now. Was it on a document that was going into the treasury?
I was just curious. I don't think that it's low. I don't think that it's anywhere. I assumed that you'd be doing what Strong was, and I don't think they put a lot of their nodes or their NFTs into the pool. So I was curious about what you all were gonna plan, or if there was any different pool for that money.
No, we're gonna keep all of the revenue from the NFTs and put it right back into the rewards pool. Another aspect we think will help improve upon the sustainability that Strongblock has missed.
Excellent, excellent. Go ahead, Jive.
Hey Baxter, we've been 5 minutes into the call, and more than twice you mentioned sustainability. Okay, just give me 1 second. Scott, I think there is a background over here. Could you please request whoever is not muted?
Um,
Yeah, Baxter, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, we are 5 minutes into the call, and I heard you guys saying sustainability more than twice. But I never heard I never heard innovation. I never heard a value proposition of your product. What is it that the value proposition you're bringing on the table?
Sorry, what was the last part there? I couldn't make that out.
I'll repeat myself. Is this clear? Guys, can you hear me clearly?
and there's something going on
Scott,
behind
Johnny,
the-
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There's just something going on behind your voice there too.
All right, we'll get back to him. So it sounds like the question that he was asking, from what I could hear of it, and I'll try to translate it.
Yeah.
Is
Johnny, can you hear me?
yes, excellent.
Yeah, is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, Baxter, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's a lot clearer.
Sure. Sorry, I think something technical from my side. Okay. So Baxter, what I mentioned is we are 5 minutes into the call, and you mentioned sustainability twice, but I didn't hear anything about the value proposition that you're bringing onto the table. I didn't hear about what is the unique you're bringing onto the table, and what about the growth?
Well, the whole point of the treasury is that it creates an intrinsic value for your node. So no matter what, whether you need some fast cash or an investor loses faith in the product, they're able to immediately cash out their node. And the intrinsic value will always be the treasury balance, but divided by the total number of nodes. And this number should always grow because the revenue from our bonds, 100% of the revenue from our bonds sold will be going back into the treasury, creating an infinitely growing treasury.
Yeah, and just to touch on the last part of that, like I was saying to Johnny previously, the whole calculation that we've worked out in terms of how the APY actually slightly decreases as the node tiers go on. This is because the money being brought in for the cost of the nodes actually increases in terms of the ratio to the rewards that your node is paying out. And so long term, as more nodes are created, that allows for more money going into the rewards pool and less money coming out. So it balances out the rewards.
So you guys have taken a lot of inspiration from Strong, and I'm sure you are aware about it. Strong also had its own days of ups and downs. Okay, there are a lot of recalculations, recalibrations that is going on. So, and I also heard that you've been spending about 6 months in this project. But when I look at your white paper, detail at which you have spoken about, it's hardly anything. Do you want to give us a little bit view in terms of your tokenomics? So when you say that you want to create more number of nodes, is there going to be an infinite number of nodes, or do you have a cap over it? And if you have infinite or cap, how did you derive to that number?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have yet to decide specifically whether there's going to be a finite number or not. And what that's going to depend on, like you were saying, Strong has adjusted some of their calculations, and projects like Thor as well have had to alter their rewards to maintain sustainability long term for the project so that they can project that to last. And essentially, what we're planning on doing is, as we can see directly, publicly tested results of how the sustainability is affected by the actual node tiers and the rewards and the APY that we've calculated. We'll be able to gain a better understanding of whether we should add another. So for the last tier 5, every node after the initial 25,000 nodes are minted will be a tier 5 node. However, as we gain a better understanding of what exactly the maintenance will need to look like in terms of sustainability, we may decide to add either a cap on tier 5 nodes or move to tier 6 nodes, which will, continue to decrease with APY as well as cost and rewards.
So one thing, and this is a question that I ask when I talk about any new node project, or any node project, period. And this is something that Strongblock is still struggling with, period. Do you have a plan to bring external revenue sources to your project? Basically, it's all well and good for the node creators and users to provide value, but what's your plan as far as bringing in external revenue?
Well, there's various types of, like, the NFTs have proven to be an incredibly successful external revenue source for Strongblock. Like I mentioned before, the bonds will be an excellent source of external revenue. And then, as you guys know, Avalanche validators pay out roughly 10% annually. So of course that money will be going back to our holders. And we're exploring some other options right now, but as of right now, those are our current streams of revenue.
Scott, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So can you go over with the community what kind of security measures that you guys have already taken or are in the process of doing, such as like doxing your guys' self or contract audits, KYC to a third party, all that kind of stuff?
So, Baxter, I heard you talking about the burns. Okay, so could you just walk us through a little bit in detail about what do you mean by burns and why do you want to burn?
Sure. Yeah. So the term burn that we're using when we describe the buyback system is actually more of it's not necessarily the node specifically being burned, because we're still debating whether or not the node will be literally burned or burned for that user, and will go back into the market, whatever that tier node would be. But the reason I use the word burn is essentially, with a project like Strong, right now there's over 250,000 nodes that have been created, and the way that Strong has worked out their system, those nodes are going to continue to receive rewards for as long as the Strongblock protocol exists. And the reason I use the word burn for our protocol is because if 25,000 Emerald nodes are created and then 5,000 people decide to sell them back to the Treasury, those nodes will no longer be receiving rewards. And so essentially, those rewards will be taken, that stress of those 5,000 nodes receiving rewards will be taken off of the rewards pool, and those nodes will be quote unquote burned.
So what is the total number of tokens? Or, I see that I see that you're referring to it as an ICO. Are you going to generate a coin or are you going to generate a node feature? What is it?
We're going to have a coin which you will be able to purchase nodes with.
Yeah. So okay. And can you just walk me through a bit in terms of your technology stack that you're using?
The technology is what?
The technology stack.
I'm not sure I understand.
Could you just walk me through what are the technology that you're using behind your protocol, behind your product?
In terms of nodes, I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at.
Right. It seems like there's some type of miscommunication. I don't know if Jive can hear Scott. So hold on a second. We're going to pause Jive so that we can get an answer to Scott's question, okay? All right. Can you hear me, Scott?
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me, Emerald?
Yep.
Okay. So my question, what kind of security measures are you guys taking, such as doxing yourself, contract audits, KYC, multi-signature, all that kind of stuff?
Sure, yeah. So essentially what we've done thus far is we've doxed the two of us, Shane and I, to the community. And we've also included in that information that we put out the development team that we're working with, which, like I said, is MetaBridge. And one of the things that we've experienced is people have been asking for us to specifically dox the MetaBridge team. And while we understand that, one of the things that is the case with our project is the MetaBridge team and the developers that we're bringing in, given that that is not necessarily a solid team, and the development consultants that's being brought in on the project is rotating. We have considered doxing the head of the actual MetaBridge team, but won't be doing all the specific members. And in terms of contract audits, we are intending upon having a third party do that, as well as a third party do KYC prior to node release. And like we had talked about, Scott, whenever we have the contract to the point where we're willing to release it, we'll happily send that over to you guys to review it as well. I know you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know our team would like to take a look at it and see what you guys have in there and stuff. So how many people are on your multi-signature?
We've got 3 now. It's the 2 of us and another guy from the development team.
Okay, that's what I thought. And how many people total do you guys have? Like marketing, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, we have about 8 right now. That's not including our moderators for the Discord.
Okay. So I think we're going to open it up to the community to ask some questions to see if they have anything, and then we can bounce back and forth.
Awesome, thanks.
So if you guys want to raise your guys' hands, and we'll start bringing people up. Hatch, I just sent you a thing. You got to click the green box. Cheryl, I also sent you one as well, or approved yours. Hatch, you got to unmute yourself.
Hey, how are you guys? You hear me?
Yeah,
we
go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. So I have a question here. Based on Strong and all these nodes out there, the problem that they are having is they are minting a lot of tokens, and the money they are generating is from the rewards pool. Based on Johnny's question, is there the external revenue to the project is going to be just the validator, which is 10% per year, and the NFT? Is that correct?
As well as the treasury and the revenue from the bonds, yes.
The bonds would be the main source of revenue for us.
All right. So the question is now, do you guys have a system that will adjust the token when it's inflationary? or deflationary. So what I mean by that is, let's say when we are in an inflationary, because this is a token, when you mint a lot of token on a daily basis based on the rewards, the token will become inflationary. So how the system gonna adjust the reward based on that?
Well, so the way we have it set up right now is that the inflation is actually through the bonds, and it's a very slow and calculated inflation. And the numbers that we've ran, we will not need to be minting any additional tokens in order to sustain the rewards pool right now.
Then from the rewards, when the reward get generated, from where I'm receiving that?
We have an initially 300,000 of the tokens are set aside for the rewards pool off the bat.
And then that continues to get backed, like we're saying, by NFT revenue, which will likely be released either in late February or early March, which essentially will be right when the tier 5 nodes start exhausting the rewards pool, taking out more money than the actual cost of the node, or excuse me, the initial cost of the node. And then from there, we'll be continuing to release certain things that are going to be boosting that rewards pool.
Okay, cool. So then I think we don't have a limit for circulation supply. Like for example, it's the number is not defined because of the reward. I mean, I believe that right out of the bat you are just putting a limit, but I think when times goes, that will be adjusted basically, right?
Yeah, likely that's going to be adjusted over time, and we're going to be keeping a close eye on that.
Okay.
Because, like I've said a couple times, these bigger protocols, the two main ones that I keep mentioning, Thor and Strong, have had to adjust those because they haven't been tending to that and adjusting it as needed, and they've been doing so, once it becomes an issue, and we intend to be maintaining a close eye on that, just so that we can continue to adjust those figures to a small degree on a potentially even day-to-day basis, just to maintain that long-term stability. And those are numbers that, as we tweak, we of course will be 100% transparent with the community about them, and be potentially reaching out to the community for their feedback on what they want to do in terms of tweaking those numbers, because again, just like those projects, it may affect the rewards, though.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going at.
Yeah.
All right, Cheryl, we're gonna move on to someone else to ask a couple questions.
Okay,
Hatch,
keep
can
up the
you
good
unmute
work,
yourself?
guys. That's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Hatch, have you been able to unmute?
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Perfect. Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me up here. So I have a quick question about the revenue to the project. You guys have mentioned that your main sources of revenue is primarily going to be, your main source of revenue is primarily going to be the bonding. And so I was wondering how you guys plan to incentivize bonding, since it looks like from what I've read on you guys' site that the bonded tokens, or the tokens that people buy through bonding, are going to be sold at a discount. But since you guys are creating a node project in which you plan to basically lock up those tokens regardless of what price they're at to create a node, I don't see why it might incentivize me to buy a bond where those tokens are locked up for 7 days before I can create my node, regardless of what price they're at. Ideally, I would want those tokens to be made into a node as quick as possible, so I can start earning rewards as quick as possible. So that's kind of the first question I had.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you buy a bond, the token you receive is not necessarily supposed to go towards a node. Bonding is a very short-term investment strategy, similar to day trading almost. Whereas purchasing a node is more of a long-term investment strategy. You're interested in the project and have faith in it. Regardless of if you have faith in our project or not, you can purchase a bond and make money in the short term.
And one of the things that I want to mention super quick, just on the tail end of that, which we have yet to mention, we have considered potentially implementing a feature for newly minted nodes that you will have to hold on to your node for a set amount of time before you're able to burn the node. And essentially what that does is incentivize precisely that, people to buy bonds instead of nodes, because the whole downside of a node as compared to a bond, essentially you're bringing up a great point, that is there would be no reason not to just buy a node, but if we implement a sort of quote unquote vesting period for the node before you're able to sell your node back to the treasury, that'll incentivize more users to get in on bonds as an alternative source of yield for the project.
I got you. So do you guys, I guess you guys are assuming that the volume of people who would choose to kind of do the short-term route of bonding is going to be high enough to maintain the revenue for the people who want to do the long-term choice of creating a node.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, we haven't made a solid decision in terms of that node vesting period prior to enabling the nodes for buyback. And we're still toying around with a variety of different ideas, and likely we will continue to do so after launch, just to gain a really good understanding of what exactly we can do to incentivize the bonding over just purely investing in nodes as the yield for the project.
Okay, awesome. Last question is about the treasury and transparency. I think we've all seen recently through DeFi a lot of projects not be as transparent as they can with what exactly is going on with the treasury, the amount of revenue that it's bringing in, where it's currently at. How transparent do you guys plan, if at all, to be with the treasury? I've seen a lot of projects, investing in other projects.
Oh,
and
sorry, I didn't recognize you. Good. I'm just on a conference call, so I might need a. Sorry.
Keep going, Hatch. Sorry.
And it not necessarily, like for example, when a large portion of your treasury is invested in another protocol, like a lot of protocols recently that launched over the last couple of months were invested in Ohm and Time and some of these other rebasing DAOs that have started to decrease dramatically in price and value, which also decreases the value of all of these other protocols who have large treasuries invested in them. So I was wondering, kind of it's a two-part question, I guess, in terms of transparency on the investments, the amount of revenue that the treasury is bringing in, so investors can assess sustainability, and then second, maybe how you guys plan to invest outside of just the bonding to increase the treasury.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. We don't see any reason why there shouldn't be complete transparency with that. And we've seen, of course, like you talked about with a lot of these DAOs, a lot of just more reasons why that should be the case. And we have been toying with the idea of doing something along the lines of weekly announcements in terms of exactly how we're adjusting those investments and where that money that's being allocated to the treasury is specifically being assigned to in terms of investments. And as far as what exactly we intend to invest in outside of the protocol is, we have been intending from the get-go to do a wide variety of investments. And like you said, a lot of these projects that have been investing in Ohm and Time and other, Metaverse Pro and all these DAOs that have been struggling, to say the least, as of recently, have put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. And we've intended from the jump to have a bit of, just for lack of a better term, a bit of a hedge fund type aspect to the treasury, in the sense that we're hoping, the treasury is not intended as to bring in returns on the investments, but it's intended to have stability and back the actual value of the project. So we intend to invest in just about as wide a variety of projects as we can, and that, like I said, may be community driven to an extent. We'll have announcements and potentially give the community the option to give the team some input on exactly what they're hoping for us to include in that treasury.
Yeah, last meeting we brought up the idea of potentially hosting a vote weekly between a variety of different assets that we have our eyes on, and really let the community take the treasury in their own hands and help us decide on what exactly they want their nodes to be backed by.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Hatch.
Thanks, Hatch. We appreciate you. All right, BB8, I'm going to unmute you, okay? Hold on.
I just did.
All right, there you go. BB88, can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me,
All right,
guys?
you're unmuted, man. Go ahead with your question.
Awesome. So I was just a very basic question. I'm all very new to the space, but what's the difference between you guys and Strong in terms of the technology behind the nodes themselves? So the way that I understand Strong is that you're buying a node, which is basically a computer somewhere in Singapore that's processing transactions through the blockchain, and then you got to pay a $15 a month maintenance fee for the service, for the service over there. So, but I noticed you guys don't have a monthly fee. So, like, are you guys real nodes or are you virtual nodes like Thor and Power and those other projects? Can you just kind of clear that up for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Johnny asked that earlier as well, and I did say we are going to be doing real nodes, and the node investors will have access to those RPC endpoints shortly after the release of the project. And in terms of the dichotomy between us and Strong, there's one of the big things that drove us to move towards the Avalanche network is the rise of smart contracts being deployed on the Avalanche network daily has just been phenomenal recently. We've seen numbers that are something like 20% within the same range of Ethereum, which is just insane for a project with 5% of the market cap of something like Ethereum, or maybe it's closer to 10%. But as that number of smart contracts being deployed daily increases, and just that volume on the Avalanche network, we intend to just strengthen the backbone and the infrastructure of the Avalanche network with the real nodes that we're creating, as opposed to doing so on the Ethereum network, which already has a project like Strong doing the vast majority of its nodes.
Okay, cool. And so, if they're real nodes, why isn't there like a monthly maintenance fee for those nodes?
So with Strongblock, when you purchase a node, all the tokens are circulated back to either liquidity rewards or back to pay out more Strongblock nodes. With our protocol, we're taking 20% of the money that you give us for our Emerald node, and we're putting that towards the maintenance fees and towards the Avalanche validators. So once you pay that one-time fee, you don't have to worry about it ever again.
Oh, okay. So basically, like, you're going to use it to pay. You're going to use your the node reward, the purchase of the nodes to pay for the maintenance fee, whereas Strong charges at $15 a month paid in Ethereum. Is that right?
Exactly, and one of the things that brings up is at a certain point, if you decide to run your node forever, at a certain point, that initial 20% is going to be exhausted, and then at that point, once that is exhausted, we're going to start working in a percentage of the revenue from things like bonds and whatnot, and the things that generate revenue for the rewards pool, bonds, I said, and NFTs as well, and just taking a percentage of that. And what that may look like is there's quite a bit of NFT projects that have, every time the NFT is traded, a percentage goes to the creators, and we may do something like a 2% fee every time that NFT is traded, and then allocate that towards the fee or whatever it is that we're going to be paying as the Emerald project to be hosting those AVAX nodes.
Yeah, it sounds quite similar to Stack OS, their reward structure as well. I think it's quite an
Precisely.
interesting one, especially with the generations, like how you guys have their multiple tiers. So is it
Yeah.
going to stop at the 5th tier, or do the tiers keep going over time? Is it going to be 7th tier, 8th tier, 9th tier?
As of right now, with our calculations, the project should be infinitely sustainable with just the 5 tiers, but we're going to keep a really close eye on this and the rewards pool and how fast it's being depleted. And we will let investors know with plenty of advance if we do need to extend to a 7th, 8th, 9th tier.
Yeah, and that's a great question. One of the things I was bringing up to Jive earlier is one of the things I was bringing up to Jive earlier is the main issue with continuing to create node tiers beyond the tier 5 is as the APY decreases, it becomes less and less of a viable project in terms of what the yield is and what the return on investment is for investors. So more than likely, what would happen is we would do that as opposed to adjusting the already existing nodes rewards, but that would look like having a much lower reward yield than what the other nodes do, and that would potentially, turn new investors off, given the fact that the tier 5 node is already about 55 to 58% of the return that the strong nodes and regular tiered Thord nodes are yielding.
Gotcha. All right, BB,
And
we're
so
gonna have to move on to
your
other
token,
questions.
is it getting released tomorrow? Is that right?
That is
the token-
correct. 5 p.m.
And-
EST tomorrow.
Okay, and so when that token is released,
Hey, BB,
you
we're gonna
can't
have to
actually
move on to
buy
other
nodes
questions.
for about another 3 weeks after. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what can you do with the token?
Let's go ahead and
between,
get Ciro.
Jen
You there,
and
Ciro?
now?
Can you unmute?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, I'm a big fan of the Avalanche network, so I know I like their technology, but I'm in other projects with Avalanche, and a real quick question. I didn't see anything in the white paper, and I might have missed it, but is there going to be an auto compounding feature, or is there going to be a compounding feature with a fee?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you brought that up. We've looked into a variety of different ways to incorporate that, and I'm sure, like you said, if you are familiar with quite a few Avalanche projects, I'm sure that you've seen, a multitude of different ways that projects have incorporated that. And we are hoping to do an auto compounding feature, though we intentionally, from the jump, were not intending upon doing an auto compound feature. So we're just still in the process of working in exactly what that'll look like, and we'll certainly release more info on that, and that'll be solidly defined prior to launch on the 18th.
All right, I appreciate it, and I know that some of the auto compounding, there's fees associated to them sometimes. Things like yield nodes doesn't. Things like Lubiture, which I've been really happy with that project. I think I see Frankie on there, but I appreciate it, and you answered my question. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
All right. Gods, can you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. My question is, will you guys have a tax, and will you also have a node fee, like a monthly fee, and then a tax for claiming?
Yeah, good question. Like we were saying to the gentleman prior to the last one who asked the question, we will not have a monthly fee. Those monthly hosting fees will be covered by the protocol, and we'll be working in a couple different ways to potentially be covering those fees. One of the things I mentioned was potentially securing the tax that is given to the original creator of an NFT when that's traded, and we may allocate that to the monthly hosting fee. But that's just an idea for one of the things that we may do. And what was the other part of your question? I think you cut out for a little bit of it.
Yeah, it was a tax, like for claiming.
Oh yeah, there's not going to be any tax other than the avalanche fee, so pennies.
Okay, last question. I've noticed a lot of projects like Power, a lot of people FOMO in as soon as the project goes live, and the coin dips down after, about a couple hours. And I believe that's a security measure or something to keep the sustainability where all the volume is still going up, but the price is not where it was at the beginning. Even if you have more people jumping in, the price dips down. Will you guys have that? Because I'm interested in getting the highest tier, your tier 5, and the last thing is what is the payout for the tier 5s?
Yeah, great question. So the highest tier is actually tier X nodes, which are only available to whitelisted members, and then tier 1 nodes are the node after that, and the rewards for that are 0.2 emerald per day. The cost of all nodes tier X through 4 is 10 tokens. And so essentially what the APY would be on that, assuming the price stays the same, is 730%. Just to give you a kind of a figure to get a gauge of what the return on investment is.
And then we're also setting our ICO price at $20, as well as when the token is able to be traded on swaps like Trader Joe, XYZ, it'll be $20 as well. And so nobody from the ICO will be able to dump below that $20 level, as well as a lot of the other projects that see these rising volumes and dumping prices could be the private investors or the angel investors dumping their tokens on the market once it's open. And we have been very transparent. We have 25,000 tokens sold off to angel investors, and they're only allowed to sell 3% of their tokens per week.
Awesome. All right, King Titus, it's all you. Maybe.
Oh, he's still muted there.
Grook, how about you?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you for being here, guys. I do have a couple questions. So I hear you talk about Strong. Your smart contract, was it built from scratch, or does it hold similar features from any other contract?
Yeah, good question. In terms of features, it does hold similar features like Shane touched on earlier. The NFTs in terms of boosting as far as rewards go and how those interact with the nodes, those are going to be mirrored. But, given that the Strongblock code isn't public, we have forked 0% of our code directly from other projects, including Strong. And it's all being created from scratch, though, like I was saying, some of those features are being mirrored.
Okay, so the features are mirrored, but you're saying your smart contract was built from scratch.
Yes.
Okay. Second, so I thank you for, there's a bit of an echo here, but I thank you for your LinkedIn. And so going through here, is it safe to say that this is both of yours first business excursion?
For myself, I would not say that. I've been the CEO of a local company in my town for about 4 years now. And that doesn't exist in the crypto space.
And for me, yeah, this is my first big project within the crypto space.
Okay. And I also see that you guys both work here at Market Makers. So was that employment through them, or were you guys self-employed at this time?
We were self-employed. That was more of the name that we gave just as we were reaching out to companies, but that was more of a freelance role.
Gotcha. And so earlier at the very beginning of this AMA, you guys said you guys have been working on this project for 3 months, correct? Can you kind of share what has taken 3 months for you guys to get to this point, and still need another 18 days to have the node creation available?
Yeah, good question. So one of the things that we talked about briefly earlier on is the calculations that we've done. I think it was either Johnny or Scott that was asking about that. And one of the things that has been, from our eyes, one of the major issues with the current node projects that are available now is the sustainability of the projects just continues to be tweaked, and rewards have been cut in half and moved back and forth. And that was something that we have been putting an almost excessive amount of work into, just to ensure that we can avoid that. And I think one of you touched on that also when we were speaking in the group. But just that avoids just putting the time into that initially gives us the ability to be transparent about our intentions in terms of sustainability, as well as what we may or may not have to do as the project moves forward in terms of tweaking those numbers. So I think the majority of the time that we've spent thus far has been on calculating those numbers, and as well we also spent I would say it took us at least 6 weeks to find the MetaBridge development team, because there's certainly no shortage of spectacular blockchain and Solidity developers out there, but we really wanted to find the team that was a perfect fit for the project, and we spent a pretty solid amount of time doing that. And one of the last things that I'll touch on in terms of the amount of time we spent is just we really wanted to have a solid idea of all these aspects that we're touching on in this AMA, as well as what we've spoken about in our documents and in our communities and whatnot. And we wanted to do that prior to creating a community, because we've been of the belief that we want to build the community off the actual solid foundation of the project, as opposed to potentials and promises that may or may not be fulfilled.
Gotcha. Thank you. I do have a few more questions, but I want to hand it back to the community here.
Awesome. Thanks, Karuk.
All right, King Titus, did you figure out your mic situation?
Hey, Baxter, I'm going to try this once again. See, if you could just mute yourself while I'm talking, I'll be able to hear clearly. Yeah, I think this is much better. Amazing. Oh, thanks. Definitely it was from your side. Okay. Hey, I'll just take a couple of minutes before I hand it over to someone else. See, when I go through your white paper, your token, the number of tokens that is going to be floated around is around 500,000. Okay. And there are three things that I see. One, you're talking about marketing, where you're going to allocate 100,000. You're talking about rewards pool, which is around 200,000. And then you're talking about something called as circulating liquid, which is around 100,000, right? So that leaves the reward pool with 300,000. Now, there are two things which I want to ask you as a question. One, you spoke about angel investors. So which pool among this is going to be attributed towards the angel investor? And the second thing, which pool among these is going to be used to create nodes?
Hey, I'm not quite sure if you have read the updated white paper, but we've gotten a little bit more specific as far as where these tokens exactly are going. So the developers team hold 50,000 tokens, which will also be used for marketing. 25,000 allocated to angel investors. And the tokens that we'll be using for creating more nodes will go back into the 50,000 allocated to marketing, developers, and team.
Okay, see, if I have to, yeah, can you keep this, can you please mute your, yeah, thank you. See, if you look at it today, and if a phantom validator costs you around 500,000, okay, to get you one validator, and that would give you a yield of around 75K per annum, which is roughly translates to around $6,000 per month. Now, if I had to apply this calculations to a phantom validator, you guys will end up having 12 phantom validators, and that will generate around $900,000. So how are you going to manage this reward pool?
We're on the Avalanche network.
And how much is the Avalanche costing you?
I'm not sure I understand the nature of your question.
So see, I'm just trying to see how is it you're generating a reward pool so that it sustains and continues to give the rewards to the user at this price. See, at a face value, you will generate $10 million, which includes all the tokens put together. Right? With this $10 million, I'm trying to understand how is the reward distribution going to happen?
Well, essentially, the idea is the ICO is going to be for 50,000 tokens, and then as tokens are bought to create nodes, that's going to be more money that's going in to back the actual market cap of the project.
All right, Jai,
Have
we're
you
going to
got
move on to
your
other
code
questions.
validated by some security auditors?
We have not. Like I was telling these guys, Scott and Johnny, we're going to send it over to you guys as soon as it's available to do so, and we intend to have a third party do that as well, which we will release publicly.
Have you spoken to any advisors to be onboarded as a part of your team?
All right. Abib or King Titus? King Titus, I think you were up here first if you want to go. Maybe. Maybe not. Abib, how about you?
There you go. Go ahead, man. Sorry, Jive. We got to move it to some of the community, man. We're going to have to keep moving on. We got a lot of questions lining up, okay? Go ahead, Abed.
Okay, so I was looking at the white paper and I saw like you guys have different tiers of nodes, like the X tier, which is for whitelist, and then like 1 through 5. I was wondering, 1 through 4 look like they cost the same. They all cost 10 emeralds. Can you explain why they cost the same, and is there some reason for you to buy like a lower tier one for the same if you could just buy the higher tier?
Yeah, good question. So essentially, the intention of having that price be the same for those tiers X through 4 is to incentivize investors to be earlier on the project. And one of the things that we're going to include in the NFTs is if you're buying, for example, a tier 3 node, which, like you pointed out, will cost the same as a tier 1 or tier 2 node, but will have lower rewards, then the certain NFTs will be able to boost the lower tiered rewards, the lower tiered nodes rewards to be more in line with those of the higher tier rewards. But in short, to answer your question, the idea is to incentivize investors to be earlier in the project. And one of the things that you might ask, and that might bring up, is, well, if I miss out on the tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 nodes, why would I, spend the 10 emerald that you're essentially charging for the tier 4 node? And the whole idea of the node tiers and like I'm saying, this ratio of cost to reward actually changing over time as opposed to staying the same for most projects. This actually works out mathematically to be much more sustainable because, like I was mentioning earlier, the rewards are paying out less and the project is actually bringing in more money. So it incentivizes investors to, instead of going to a project where you give them 10 of their tokens and then rely on the project to have exponential continued growth in terms of nodes and investor base, the project is actually sustainable as is, even if you're the last person to buy a node.
Okay, so I see, like, basically the earlier you're on the project, the more nodes you can buy in the beginning, and there's like a limited amount. I was also wondering about the burn mechanism. So if you had a bunch of tier 1 nodes, for example, and you burn them, are those now available for purchase for you or for like another person?
Yeah, great question. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We're still deciding exactly what we're going to do there. And like I said, the reason I've been using the word burn is because likely those nodes will not be available for purchase after. And the reason that we're doing that is because we're going to be, like it says in the white paper, there's going to be a finite amount of tiers, or excuse me, of nodes that are tiers X through 4. And then as those nodes get burned, there will be tiers X through 4 nodes being given out in contests and raffles and various things like that. And essentially, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to balance the amount of nodes to where if there's 500 tier X nodes at the inception of the project, if you check anytime from now for the next 3 years or 5 years, there's going to be around 500 of those tier nodes. Because the intention behind that is the numbers that we've worked out in terms of how many nodes exist of each tier and what their rewards are. That's exactly where we're getting the long-term sustainability from, and we want to ensure that we're keeping those numbers as balanced as possible.
Awesome. So we're gonna move on. We got a few more people, and we're approaching a little bit over an hour right now. So we're just gonna go through the people, the rest of what we have, and then we'll just limit it to one question per person.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Abed.
King, did you get your mic situation figured out? I can hear you.
Yeah, we got you.
So I have a question about. Can you mute? Thank you, dude. So I have a question about the 18 days. So my understanding is, and I maybe, like, what I'm saying, stop me if I'm wrong. You are not launching the token now because it's not done.
So the tokens are fully functional now, and the contracts are finished. We're in the testing phase now. But the reason we have put this 18-day gap in is because our whitelist members are all entitled to buy 2 tier X nodes, and if our whitelist members are not guaranteed any tokens at ICO. So we wanted to build in a week or two where our whitelist members will be able to go to swaps and purchase the tokens required for the reserved tier X nodes.
Okay, I think that maybe I'm confused. Like, what do you mean by go to exchanges and purchase the tokens required to?
Well, so each node costs 10 tokens, and if you're on our whitelist, you're entitled to 1 tier X node. However, we expect our initial coin offering to sell out relatively fast. So if any of our members of the whitelist don't get a chance to purchase one of the tokens from the initial coin offering, we would like to allow for a short period of time for them to acquire the necessary tokens to buy their node.
And just to add to that quickly, one of the things that the 18-day period will allow us to do is while we're ensuring the ability for the whitelist members to do that, we're going to have a small interim period prior to release on the 18th where the whitelist members will get their nodes. And we can ensure just with those initial 500 nodes, that'll essentially be a testing batch that's released to the public, and we can gain a better understanding of how exactly to communicate with the community to just work through the issues that may come up for them throughout that period and the questions that they have before we, start giving the ability to buy 25,000 nodes right off the bat.
Okay, so can you mute? So what you're saying is that you guys are doing the 18 days because people are going to be able to ICO, then they'll be able to make nodes and earn for the 18 days, but it won't go live trading until the 18 days is up, so they'll be able to dump those tokens they make, or?
No, the whitelisted members a bit prior to the node launch will have access to the 500 tier X nodes that are reserved for those members. and that will essentially be the testing period for nodes being released.
Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
King,
So
we
so
gotta
okay.
move
So
on.
now I think I understand. So you make the nodes, but you can't do anything with them for 18 days. But they're just vested, and you guys are testing the nodes in the 18 days.
The nodes will not be the only nodes that will be created prior to the 18th are the 500 nodes that the whitelisted members will have, and those won't be created until likely about a week to 5 days prior to launch. But from tomorrow at 5 p.m. EST, when the ICO goes live, the tokens you'll be able to buy the tokens, and then on the 18th you'll be able to use those tokens for purchasing nodes. And one of the reasons that we've decided to do that, that 18-day period of time is, for one, when I believe it was the Red Light node project released their nodes just in the past few days here, Avalanche fees spiked up to something like $15. And what we want to do, I mean, the whole intention of the project is to reduce the stress on the Avalanche network. And so separating those two events is going to be one of the things that does that. And then as well, because the ICO lasts so long, that's going to give the investors a chance to get in the project while the token is at a set price. That way, over the course of the 18 days, the price isn't going to be fluctuating up and down to encourage investors to swing trade and sell and whatnot because of the fixed price.
All right. We're gonna move on, King.
Okay. I still don't really get it, man. I don't know why you would have.
Sorry, I may not be explaining it well. Feel free to reach out to us in the Discord, and we'll be happy to answer your question.
All right, cool.
All right. Next question. Can you hear us? You got a lot of feedback in your mic.
Yeah, we're just getting a lot of noise. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi, how you guys doing?
All right, man. Try to ask your question. Your audio is shaky though.
All right, so first thing first, I do want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak, and I want to also mention that you guys are doing a wonderful job. I like the idea. I've went over to the whitelist. The white paper just now. It's my first time actually join this AMA with you guys per se, right? I didn't know anything about your project or anything like that, but I'm a part of Kryptonair, and they sent the notice that they was having a AMA with you guys. I was like, let me join. So I hopped in while people was asking questions. I went over the white paper, and I like what I'm seeing. So my questions to you guys, right? Is it too late to whitelist?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's not. We've got a variety of different ways you can get whitelisted. We're doing an invite contest. We're doing an art contest. We're doing some raffles, and there's a large variety of ways to get on that list. And there's 250 total spots available, though. Right now, I think there's something like 70 left.
Okay, so what are the process? What do I have to do to get whitelist though? What do I need to do? Because I'm not part of your Discord yet. So I just joined this AMA. I really have no clue. The only thing I was able to read is your white paper. That's all.
Yeah, good question. So like I said, there's a couple different ways you can compete in the art contest. The way that the majority of users have been whitelisted thus far is we have an invite tracker in the Discord. So if you invite a certain amount of members, and that's 20 members, to the Discord, and then you reach level 5 in the Discord, which is essentially achieved through something like 20-30 minutes of just chatting in the Discord. And there's a variety of channels that you can chat in. You don't have to be engaged in active conversation throughout the whole time. But the reason we do that is because the idea of the whitelist is reserving rewards for members of the community that are engaged in the community and like to see the community grow. And one of the things that that's brought up is people have brought up concerns about the invite contest and people spamming other channels and whatnot. And I just want to touch on this super briefly, though it's not super relevant. We do completely discourage members from spamming other channels. A lot of other servers have channels specifically allocated to sharing other communities, and that's the intention of our project. We don't want to, be bothering members into joining. We want people to be interested in the project, and so that's one of the main ways that you can get on.
Okay, so just to be clear, if I invite 20 or more people and up to level 5, I made it to be able to level 5, I get to be on the I get to be whitelisted.
Exactly.
Is that? Oh, all right. Just so you guys know, right? I'm actually I have a YouTube channel, but not in English. I have a smaller community where I target myself. They speak Creole. I'm Haitian, right? And I have a pretty huge follower. I have about 500,000 followers. They all speak Creole. That's what I'm saying. We discuss crypto and staking and node projects. So I'm gonna list you guys there. Again, it's not in English. It's in Creole, but I'm pretty sure I can get you guys a lot of customers because I read the white paper. I like it. It's really good. I love what I'm saying. So I'm gonna go ahead and mention you guys. You guys will get probably a lot of invite. So once I do get those invite in, so how do I know I'm whitelisted?
Yeah, so essentially, if you join the Discord, we've got channels and mods that are focused specifically on that. And we've got a channel that outlines the exact requirements for how to get whitelisted. And then we've got bots and mods that are checking through your invites throughout the day to ensure that you get whitelisted. And once you are whitelisted, you'll be given a role in the Discord, and that'll give you access to the whitelist chat where you can ask questions about it and get some more specifics. And you can always reach out to anybody on the team, and that includes mods and us as the owners as well, if you want to get more information on that.
That sounds pretty good. Last questions for me is, how do I get whitelisted for the higher node tier? Is that even open? Is that possible?
It is, yep. The normal whitelist reserves you 2 tier X nodes.
So,
which is the highest tier.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So all I got to do is get, invite 20 or more people and be up to level 5, and I'm good.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. I'm going to start working tonight. Is there a deadline or there's not?
The only deadline that we have now is the amount of spots that are left.
And what's the amount of spot? How many spots left?
There's about 70 left now.
All right, I'm gonna go to work right now. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
All right, Shutter, you're up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So I understand clearly everything that's been presented. Thank you guys for answering all of the questions that have been asked. Coins are going to be available tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Nodes won't be available until the 18th. My question is, on the 18th, is there going to be a rush for obviously the higher tier nodes? And how is this going to be accomplished if somebody wants to obviously grab, the lower tiers initially? Do you see a problem with that?
You mean someone wanting to get a tier 5 node off the bat as opposed to a higher tier node?
No, the higher tier node. It seems like those will want to be gobbled up pretty quick, and if there's only a certain amount and you have 18 days of people purchasing, how I mean, is it just gonna is there gonna be an announcement? You know, they're open, it's time, and everybody rushes to get their nodes, or what's the process gonna be like on the 18th?
Yeah, good question. We're working through a couple of different ways that we might do the releases, but the issue with creating a system where everyone is sitting there waiting to click the buy button. We do want to have an equal opportunity for everyone to get those earlier tier nodes, and unfortunately, likely as has been displayed by the majority of projects and the majority of releases in the crypto community in general, there's not a lot of ways to ensure, there's only X amount to go around, and unfortunately, there's no specific way to ensure, if 10,000 people want a tier 1 node, unfortunately, there's just not enough to go around. So we are working on ways to make that as equal as possible we can for the community. And there will be an announcement that includes a web app and all the specific information on how to get that.
Great, thank you. That was my question.
Awesome, thanks, Shoder.
Right. We're gonna have time for one more question, and then we're gonna close her up because we're approaching an hour and a half. So, Roger just added you. Can you hear us?
A little bit choppy.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Now we can.
Yeah. Actually, so I have only one question regarding ICO tokens. Actually, I'm whitelisted and I'm allowed to buy 400 tokens for 2 nodes. So, where I can get these like 400 tokens tomorrow from ICO, or after that I also can get.
Yeah, great question. So tomorrow, we're going to be releasing quite a bit of information throughout the day, and we'll be answering questions all day long, and we'll be live in the Discord as well, just to ensure that everyone is getting their questions answered and the support that they need. But we will be releasing a web app that investors can go to purchase their tokens, and that'll be pretty simple. That'll just display the price information, the amount of time left in the ICO, the amount of tokens available, all that good stuff, and it'll be pretty simple and straightforward. But like I said, we'll be giving out announcements throughout the day tomorrow, just to make that super clear, so that there's no issues prior to the release.
Okay, so simply like we can also get our tokens from ICOs. There will be no different link or something like that for whitelisters.
No, it'll be the same for everyone during the ICO.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's gonna do it tonight, everybody. We've had a great turnout, and we've had about an hour and a half so far. So I think we're gonna call it. We appreciate you all for coming out. Thank you so much, Emerald Nodes. We appreciate you guys for showing up. Anything you'd like to leave the people with? Any last words or statements?
Not specifically. If anybody has any questions that they didn't get answered or anything they want from us, you can always feel free to reach out to the mods and reach out to us specifically on Discord. Our names are pinned all over the Discord, so if you need to do that, please do so.
Well, we really appreciate you coming out to talk with us, to share your project and share all the information. And we wish you the best in your launch. We hope we'll have you guys back again after the successful launch. We can talk about what's going on in your project once you're up and running.
We'd love that. Thank you so much, Johnny and Scott. We really appreciate the opportunity, fellas.
Appreciate your guys' time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Are you too? See ya.